Hey, thank you all for joining another episode of Celeste the Therapist podcast. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. If you've never been here before, thank you for being here. I have a really special guest with me, and don't forget, if you are listening to this on audio, you can catch this visual on YouTube. I'm going to ask her to introduce herself to my audience. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Of course. My name is Dr. Akua K. I'm a licensed psychotherapist in the city of Philadelphia, but also working virtually throughout the United States.
Nice. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you. And so one of the things that I do is I love storytelling. I think it's important. I think a lot of times, especially with you being a Black woman, I think it can give people hope seeing where you are. But I know you didn't just like arrive as a doctor. You weren't born as a doctor.
Right.
So can you tell people a little bit about your background, like where you were born and kind of like what led you into this field?
Sure. I was born and raised in California in the Central Valley. My parents are originally from Ghana, West Africa, and migrated here and had myself and my two other sisters. So grew up in California, just loving life with three girls in the house, played a lot of sports, were very, very active. But also there was a common theme that was a part of most of our upbringing, and that was service. We were often in moments where we were either serving homeless, we were outside helping people where possible, giving, whether that be food drives, whether that be in the church community. We were always helping someone.
Was that something your parents was passionate about and kind of instilled in you and your sisters?
Very much so.
Mm.
Very much so. I think it's really a common theme within Ghanaian culture as well, that your tribe, you take care of your tribe, you take care of your community, you are your brother's keeper. And so while we were young, that was something that was a part of what living was about, what giving was about. And so I think really early on, I felt and learned that a life well lived is one that's lived in service, which my dad often said to us growing up. And so it was not really far for me to go into psychology because I feel like that was the best way for me to be able to give to people.
And for people that are listening to the audio, if you're on YouTube, if you see she's smiling from ear to ear, it seems like when you think about that, it brings you some joy. What about that time of your life is bringing you to this place of like excitement right now?
Yeah, I think it's funny because when you're growing up, some of the things that you hate, some of the things that you wish you did not have to do, all of those hours, all of that time, visiting older people, visiting the sick, you just really don't value to the degree that you do as you get older and you realize someone visited me, someone has helped me, and how life changing it's been in my life. And so I smile because my parents knew what they were doing, didn't they? They knew that that you will never stray too far away from your rearing, and the things that you learned early on now is my entire lifestyle.
Nice, I love that. And even though you were giving to others, do you think mental health was a staple in your home, or was it something that you kind of learned more about later on?
So it was definitely something I learned later on. Although mental health was not talked about quite a bit, I think even in culture, right? In Ghanaian culture, it's not something that you talk about too much. But what I do know is that even in different names, in different activities, we were often thinking about the well-being, the holistic being of a person. And so right now in mental health, we would, call that um, emotional health, we would call that mental health, but we called it something different, but we were still doing it, right? So my family, I come from a strong medical family. And so most of the people in my family are in medicine. And so initially that was my track. It's also very, very big in West African culture, right? To be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, you only have a few options. And so mine was initially to go into medicine.
So you had planned this lifestyle around like medicine, and then you switched over to become a psychotherapist. What was that transition like? Because you had your expectation there, and I'm sure it was a hard change to have to do for you.
Right, right. So it was definitely a hard change. So I thought helping people. I knew I wanted to help people. I knew I wanted to help heal people. I thought that was in medicine. And that's the language that I had up until college and went pre med, did everything biological sciences, loved it. And I actually completed that degree. I knew senior year that I did not want to apply to go to medical school, which was a pretty big life shift for me to call my parents and tell them that. But it was probably not probably, the most defining and important moment in my life where I chose myself. I followed my intuitive guidance, that inner voice inside that said, "This is the way." And I told them I would not apply to medical school, but I wanted to go into psychology. And so that's what I did.
Nice. And for people listening, I always like to use like little moments that my guests share with people because there are people in that boat that you're in where they want to please their parents, but there's this voice that like they want to do something different. What would you tell them to help them get through that defining moment in life? Because I think that's major.
So major. Mm, there is a life that has been designed for you. It is everything that you can imagine it to be. It is not work, it's purpose. And so, in the moment where you feel like you have to decide between what's the expectation and your purpose, always take the moment to visualize. I remember I would visualize quite a bit, right? I would visualize my life. What could it look like? How would I impact people? What would happen if I didn't choose to do what I'm really, I believe, on this planet to do? And so all of those internal visualizations and moments of reflection came to a head when I had to express that to another person. It would not have happened if I didn't do that internally first. So I would encourage someone to really sit with that, begin to have visualizations and thoughts around what this could be like. Manifestation is real. And so take time to do that. And then your expression of that is really just the outgrowth of your personal internal conversation.
Yes, I love that. You have such a like smooth voice, and
Oh, thank
I
you.
agree, and I also want my listeners to remember, there's power in stillness. Stillness can feel hard
Mhm.
because we have to sit with some hard questions or some hard decisions. And I always say, like, when we choose us and what is the thing to do in the moment, even though it may feel hard and be anxiety driven, you're preventing that longevity of anxiety, right? Like,
Yes.
I think that's important to remember. But sitting still is like so major. So I appreciate you sharing that piece.
Yes.
Now you go into college, you're in graduate school at this point. Are there many people that look like you in graduate school? What was that experience like for you?
Well, oddly enough, I went to two HBCUs, right? So my college experience was all black, well, mainly black, which was life changing and important for me in my life. And then graduate school, I went to HBCU as well. So there was a good population of Black practitioners that we were all studying together, empowering each other, believing in each other. So it was pivotal for me. And I think every good thing in my life academically has really pointed towards Black people around me just lifting me up and letting me know that they believe in me. So that's what my grad school experience was like.
That's good. I thank you for sharing that. I didn't even know about HBCUs until I finished school.
Yeah.
So to have that experience to you for you to, share, I'm glad you had that experience. That's really
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And
I I will say my doctoral program was not a HBCU. So I did my master's in clinical psychology, and then my doctoral degree was in marriage and family therapy. So my last degree was in a PWI. So it was a little bit different, but
What was that like for you?
it was interesting, right? Because I went to a PWI, well, I should say a predominantly white elementary school and high school. So I had experiences then, how to acclimate, assimilate, and whatever it is, what where I was at the time. And so kind of taking a step into the black space and then back into the PWI was a little bit of a transition. But I had already established such a firm grounding in myself, my sense of confidence, and who I was and where I was going, that it was easier for me, I believe, going back into the PWI.
When you talk about assimilating, this is something that comes up a lot for people because it doesn't seem like you lost yourself being in that environment. How do people like assimilate? You know, whether it's work or school, and still like keep their true selves and their identity intact. What was that? How was that you were able to do that for yourself?
Sure. Well, initially I would say probably in high school and elementary, it was obviously much harder, right? Being a child and really learning in this environment. And so I think that it was college. College is such a formative time
Mhm,
about relationship. Most importantly, your relationship to yourself is formed during that time. And
mhm.
so I think it really came down to my developmental stage where I went to HBCU that really just solidified that experience for me. And then also going back into a PWI, having mentors and people in my life that could walk alongside me, whether that be my colleagues in my cohort or someone that had already gone beyond, or just a black professor that you just cling to like and want to use as your mentor, whatever you can do, to surround yourself. It's that supporting community.
Okay, so it sounds like if my listeners, it's the community piece. Earlier, she said grounding. She was very grounded. I think that's important, especially like now in today's society. I think a lot of people are able to have language to kind of express what they may have been dealing with lately, but then just kind of direction, like where do I go? How do I continue to be my full self? And I think community is such a huge component to making sure that you kind of stay grounded within yourself. So that's good.
Very much so, especially in a grad school program.
I know.
You
I
need
know.
to have people around you that are just lifting you up. And
Yeah.
so make sure you have that.
Yeah, that's good. So you went to graduate school, but then you went back and you wanted to kind of specialize in marriage and family. What was that about? So really quick, as a therapist, I when I opened my practice, I did couples therapy,
Yeah.
and I stopped. I recognized it was not for me because people came at the last minute, and I feel like you have to have a level of like patience and so much more to do that work. So I would love to hear about like what led you into that direction. It's needed. It's needed. It's just not for Celeste.
And you need to know that, right? Because there are some things that are not for me too. Um, yeah, so I worked in the field. I graduated my master's in clinical psychology and planned to go to get my doctorate in clinical psych. But there was a lovely time that I got to work in the field in between, right? So I worked in the field. I saw the gamut of people: children, adolescents, adults, family, couple, individual. I did it all. And it really helped me to get a sense of what I was good at, what I found most triggered my curiosity and like questions and thoughts about how do I work at this case and what can I do here. But our overarching thing, I believe, was all of the individuals that I worked with and then all of the children that I worked with informed me that the problems that we deal with in therapy have their inception in the family. They begin in the family, they begin in a relationship. And so if we're able to make an impact create some reshaping and restructuring of how we do family, how we do coupledom, how we do relationships, that has a greater impact and hopefully a wide reaching impact in culture that I felt like I wanted to be a part of. And so I wanted to really help people to heal in relationship because they were hurt in relationship. And teaching people how to do that has been my joy.
And you're right. And I think one of the things that I've learned with, with doing couples therapy, and it just be in my relationship, I had to learn how to be okay with being uncomfortable and recognizing when my emotions was a response to something that has happened in the past.
Mhm.
For so long, I never recognized that. So how is it that you're able to help people? Because sometimes it could be a grievance or something happening, but the emotion didn't quite fit what was in front of me when I would respond.
Mhm.
How do you? What's your message to people that kind of are dealing with this in their relationship? Because you're dealing with two people, two different backgrounds, who want to be together but don't know how to be with their individual selves, which is hard.
Yes. I always tell people couples therapy is athletic. And me being an athlete is something that I think I just really appreciate about it. You're juggling two different perspectives and worldviews. So, yes, how do you do that? You do that with lots of patience with yourself, a lot of grace around not knowing how to do this, and this being the first time, possibly, that you're trying to sit with your own emotion, also understand another person's emotion at the very same time, looking for a married end or outcome. And so that, is also, it requires commitment, a commitment to being uncomfortable, a commitment to not knowing, a commitment to literally fundamentally changing yourself at your core in order for you to experience something you've never done in the past. And so it's tough. Displacement is real. Things that are really helpful, I find, are meditation, self reflection, your own self therapy, right? Individual therapy allows you to at least get a good measure of control around this vessel and being, in order to like learn how to express, communicate what it needs, and also to do a dual thing of holding your own and as well as another person.
Yeah, and Dr. Akua, like the commitment piece that you just said is important. I think that sometimes we're committed to it just looking good on the outside,
Mhm.
or doing it because we've always been in it. Like that's kind of our level of commitment. How powerful is it for people to kind of make the declaration, and be clear with their goals or their outcome in, working through some of the hard stuff? Because I don't know, I think the commitment piece is what misses, where people miss the mark a lot.
Mm. Well, we've had a lot of disappointment and pain in relationship,
Yeah.
right? And so that's not an easy thing. When I say commitment, it really, really looks like, if you can visualize someone, scaling a mountain. It is a tough thing to do, and
Mhm.
everything in your being wants to quit.
Mhm.
But there's also this innate desire to be loved.
Mhm.
There's a desire to be in communion, in connection, that can be a driving force in your process.
Yeah.
And that's what you commit to. You don't commit to the pain and loss. You don't commit to the arguments. You commit to this and desire within yourself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
what a way of loving yourself, to commit to this journey of getting what it is that you need.
yes. Yeah, I love it. Because it's a choice to be in the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that if I'm going to choose to be in something with only one life, that I have, I want to do it intentionally, and I think sometimes people get complacent with the way things are and just uh, don't work through change. And I think it's important to make a commitment to yourself. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Now, you graduate, you're working in the field. Now, you were working in 2020 when the pandemic hit.
I was.
What was that like for you as a clinician? as a psychotherapist, what was that like for you, kind of working with people in the middle of you, like the whole world went through a change and an uncertainty. How did you walk yourself through that time, and how did you kind of walk the people you were working with through that time?
Mm. I would love to say that I did that perfectly. I didn't, right? What we all did was that we fumbled through it and made lots of mistakes. And what that looked like for me was um, doing my level best to help as many people as I could, as well as kind of facing this uncertainty of how this might affect me. And I had no idea. I had no idea. I went completely virtual. I saw clients online. I stayed home for weeks. My schedule was disrupted as well as my clients. And so I never in my life have had a parallel experience with my clients to this degree. As therapists, we have some measure of parallel experience. If we're going through a divorce, if we're going through, our kids are doing something similar to their kids. But this idea of my life is really in the same spot as your life, and yet I have this position and often power in this space as I'm also quite uncertain. Right, so it was really really tough. I felt what my clients felt. There were moments where I had to hold back tears, especially during the civil unrest, and like just a litany of just racial trauma that was just inflicted upon Black bodies, and I felt it in my core, and also wanted to hold people in their core. So, yeah, it was a tough thing. And yet we have learned how to survive and manage with lots of self care, with lots of help and support from my own tribe and family. And we're navigating still.
I appreciate your transparency, because sometimes,
Mm,
people are like, "Oh, you're a therapist, that's why you did it." I'm like, "Listen, I'm human. Therapist is my job title." And
yes.
I love, like, the fact that you're able to kind of share with people that, like, you went through it as well.
Yes.
But being able to hold space and during that time, like, I appreciate, like, what you offer and what you've been offering, because I know how hard it is to do that in the middle of all this.
Yeah,
Um,
we held the world. I say that therapists held the world together during a pandemic.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yep.
They don't teach you that in school.
Anyway, I was looking for the part where it was like, "This is what you do." It's like, I don't remember that part. Yeah,
Not
I
in
know.
there, it's not in there.
Okay. So the last question was, I wanted to know about your mode, like your approach to therapy, because everybody's approach is different. You have like a really soft voice, and like your spirit is very calming, honestly.
Mhm.
So I would love to hear about like how you work with people in your practice.
Sure. I I believe that we are a whole being, and so it's really important that we treat our clients as such. I started in medicine, remember, kind of studying to be a doctor and learning about the processes of the body and learning about how this being actually functions and works. And so I often bring that embodiment, is really what I call it, that way of thinking about body and brain, mind as well, into the therapeutic process with my clients. We are quite divorced from our bodies in this world, in how we feel, pain that we carry, diseases that we are accruing over time. And so I really try to work with my clients in reconnecting with their bodies through emotional regulation, through awareness, emotional literacy, and intelligence. Some of these things that are often, there's a schism in our understanding because of trauma, because of the way that our body had to cope because of the challenge that we went through. I'm usually working with people on how to do that. How do we integrate again? Integration is health, remember. So, what does that look like as far as modality? I am a psychodynamic oriented practitioner. What does that mean? I help people understand patterns and cycles, the way that they've learned to cope over their lifetime, how that's showing up in their present issue and problem, and how we might go about changing that if that's their desire. I
Mhm.
work in that capacity with my clients. I work in emotionally focused therapy, learning about the emotion that's underneath the argument, the emotion that is never talked about, which is in the 90% of what's under the surface, not the 10% of what we see. So I really work with people in these two ways.
Nice. And I had a I remember I had a psychodynamic therapist, and I'm very CBT, but it's so interesting
Yeah.
how much I was able to get from that approach. It's like I said, we're all different and what works. And I think I'm so CBT, I needed that different approach to
Yeah.
help me like kind of think a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nice. Can you just share how do we get divorced from our bodies? I've never heard it framed that way, but that's a really
Mm,
great way of articulating it for people because I can tell you're a very visual person. Your words are very visual. So it kind of like everybody knows what divorce means. It's like, whoa, I'm divorced from my body. How does that work? Can you share with people what that
yes.
means?
Sure. So our body is this highly sensitive, intellectual, like being, right? And so we feel things, we get cues or around things. There's an energy field around our body in our bodies that we often are feeling as well. And so when we go through pain, we actually feel the pain. It's in the similar portion of our brain when we talk about um, a midbrain and like, where we feel pain and where we feel physical challenge is the same place where we feel emotional challenge, right? And so we're feeling these things. Oftentimes we don't have the coping strategies and education on how to handle, process, regulate our emotions. And so what we have to do is unplug ourselves from the pain in order to survive and function. I tell people when you went through trauma, if you felt every bit of the trauma that you were going through at the time, it would have overtaken you. And so we don't feel the full impact of that trauma because of our body's ability to go offline, off the track, in order to not feel that impact. What happens as a result is that we also can't feel some of the beautiful things that are happening in life that are on that track: love, connection, support, vulnerability, if we don't begin to heal that process. So divorcing yourself from your body is God's gift to the traumatized person. Yet there has to be a process of healing to reintegrate, because that's the design. That's how you were made. You need that. You're on mute. I don't think I can hear you.
You said so many amazing things. You're so amazing. And I think that when I think about the idea of needing to survive as a child, and I tell people, like, your body was protecting you. And as we get older, the things we needed to survive and cope, we may need to like go back to the drawing board and reevaluate it, but be patient with ourselves during the process because that's what got you through those hard moments. And
Yeah.
I always say to people, like, when we're trying to shut off part of us, part of my shutting down was partying and school. I tell people, like, everything's not alcohol, it could be work and school. That was like, and you lose the good parts of you. So it's like, there's no way to like shut down part of you because you're a whole being, like you said. And I said, shame on me for thinking that I can like shut down part of me and like am I really shutting it down when it's a part of me? Right. So I love everything that you said because it's so much in alignment with kind of what I talk about in this podcast and what I share when I talk about the healing process. The kind you have such a great way of framing things and giving people language and letting people know it's okay and be kind during this process because you are going through a lot. So thank you for that.
Of course. Of course.
Yes.
We need permission
Mhm.
to be fully human. We need
Yeah.
permission because oftentimes in life we never received it. And
Mhm.
so it is simple and profound to
Yeah.
tell people that they get to be human with
Yeah.
every wrinkle and crack and crevice and
Yes.
all of the things that come with this perfectly freckled human.
Yes. And my friend the other day, she was talking about something a little emotional, and she was like, "I'm sorry, I'm so emotional." I was like, "Do you ever apologize when you're happy?" And I said, "Why are you apologizing for being sad right now? Like it's okay, you're human." And I think we really to apologize for having a hard emotion, but not you don't do it every time. And then she's like, "Dang, that's so true. I never thought about it like that." It's like the way we frame things and we help people and interject in the way that their psyche is working because it's like damn that you must feel a lot of guilt for having
Mhm.
these human emotions and
Mhm.
people laugh and then they're like man that's so true and we need to know that you're absolutely right.
Yeah, we don't even know we do it, huh?
No, we don't know we do it. It's so crazy how that happens. I appreciate the way you share. Now you're doing something in October. Tell me a little bit about what campaign you're running and why you decided to run this campaign.
Mm, yes. So I love what we're going to be doing in October. It's called the Happy Black Women Campaign, and it really helps people to understand what it looks like to curate a holistic, intentional, and compassionate lifestyle. That's beyond therapy. I do the majority of my work in a therapy room privately, but I often get questions around what do I do when I leave therapy? Okay, well, you need to do meditation, you need to like journal and like sit with, like create a space and like, oh, how do I do that? And like, where do I buy the things? And who sells them and where do I get them? And so this campaign is all about all of the extras, all of the things that you do in your everyday life outside of therapy that helps improve your mental health. So, mind, body, spirit, we'll be talking to experts in every area of like meditation and breath work and fitness and nutrition and spirit work and just a bunch of people that, or experts, I should say, in these areas that will help guide us in how to curate this process, as well as like how do you have your own personalized, ritualized ritual plan where some of them are not really therapist approved, right? I will have curated my own ritual practice for the people that are part of this campaign. And so they can know exactly how to get started, step one through the end, how you develop this ritual and wellness plan for yourself.
Nice. I love that. I tell people because like I have this like thing that I'm very intentional about what I do. When I started, I used to get depressed because I used to feel people's energy, and I was like, "Oh, you don't have to leave this field. You just got to take care of yourself." So
Yeah.
I do a really good job at taking care of myself, and I tell people it's my
Right.
medicine for life. Right? Like
Yes.
I've mastered surviving, and I want people to learn like what's your medicine, like what's your treatment plan. The same way you was in the medical area, so the same way people need a diabetes insulin to survive
Yes.
diabetes, right? What do we need to live? And I don't think people think about it that deeply. So to like really have people like really think about their plan because my plan and Dr. Akua's plan looks differently. We're two different people who need two different things, and
Yes.
so really like the beauty of being able to know what you need and give yourself what you need, it's like such an amazing gift to yourself. Isn't
Yes.
that true?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And it's so basic, right?
Yes, I
Sometimes
swear it
we
is.
feel it like it needs to be some large, grand
Nope,
plan. It's like,
nope.
what's up with your skincare? What are you doing for your exercise plan? What do you like to eat? What foods really like nourish your body? What helps you when you're feeling depressed? Are there certain foods and
Mhm,
spices that you can use? So it's really just being able to learn about this being and what it needs, tapping into that, listening, and then also most importantly being able to give people resources, right? People have the
mhm,
desire. I think that Black women have the desire,
mhm.
just needing to know where to go, who to buy from people that look like us, from Black
Mhm,
women,
mhm.
from companies that are sustainable and holistic. And so I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I love it, and I have such a passion for Black women because I think we don't see enough of people of our people like living life. We do so much for others, and by the time it's our turn, it's like we tell ourselves we don't have anything to give, and it's like we gotta like change that narrative. And
Yes.
so I love that you're like trying to change it, and just know people that are like working through stuff that your body's gonna take time to get used to, like, what you're providing it, right? So
Mhm.
being patient with yourself as you're, like, going through this journey is so important. So thank you for doing that. And if people wanted to be a part of this campaign or reach you or learn about you, tell people what is the best way to do that.
Yes, on every platform, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you can reach me at Akua K Boateng, AkuaKBoateng. My website is akuakboateng.com. And so reach out to me if you're needing support or any resources. On my Instagram page, I try to post new resources every day that really help you along your journey. And I'm happy to be a part of your tribe.
Nice. And what helps you stay on track? What helps you live life and not just survive life?
Yeah, good question, Celeste. I think that changes over time, does it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Right now, I will say that really what's helping me, it's the simple things that really do help me to stay on track and stay aligned. Yesterday, I just deep cleaned my house and I felt like someone just presented me this new home. And it was so beautiful to just walk around. I have these flowers that I just created a arrangement, going outside and feeling the breeze, taking a walk every day, looking at the sky and thinking about the idea that that is a world of possibility, people, experiences that are beyond what my own, my problems as well. And so it really does give hope and relief. Um, yeah, my family, I think there's just a love for my family feels nourishing
Mhm.
right now. Um,
Good.
yeah, a lot of things.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And as you guys hear, she didn't talk about things that cost money. Like healing
Oh,
is, it's right in our backyards. For me, it's me and my kids. We've been doing YouTube meditations. We started at 2 minutes. We're at 5 minutes, which
love
is huge.
that.
At first, they were like 2 minutes, and then now we're like, no, we're at 5 now. We're at 5. And they just kind of calm down and we go around and say what we're grateful for. And I
Mhm.
try to like share all of these things with people and let them know you just start, even if it's 30 seconds, just start with 30 seconds. Start where you are with what you have. And YouTube is free, right? And so you may not be able to go to a meditation center, but you don't need to go to a meditation center. And so I really want people to get into the practice of thinking about not the barriers, but all
Yes.
think about the barriers are there and you're going to work through them, but also how can I work around that? What can I do right now?
Mhm.
And we do that for survival, but we don't do that for living. So I really want people to think about that. So thank you so much. You're so awesome. I'm so excited that you graced my podcast with your presence and your amazing voice. You should do like a meditation, like something. It's so calming. I feel so relaxed. We had a few technical difficulties and just like I didn't feel overwhelmed because you're just so relaxed. You're like, it's okay, don't worry, it's okay.
We're good. We're good. No, it was my pleasure. And I just want to say thank you, Celeste, for doing what you do.
Thank you.
It takes a lot of effort and work and time and emotional labor to do what you do, and it benefits so many people, and you probably will never see how many people that your podcast has changed their life. And so thank you for
Thank
what
you.
you do.
I appreciate you. I have to receive it. I can't say anything after because I know you won't let me. So I'll just like
No.
receive it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, bye.
Okay.